For those who may be worshiping at Trinity today for the first time or the first time in a while, we've just launched a year-long journey through the Hebrew Scriptures, what we Christians call the Old Testament. These are the stories that provide the foundation for Christian faith. For our first 2 weeks just past, we've listened to stories of a great creator, God, who launched the cosmos into being with a single bang, who has sustained a universe of quarks and dark holes and exploding galaxies, over the eons has nurtured, in fact, into being a small human race on this planet called Earth. So for the first 2 weeks, we celebrated what we call the original blessing, this immense goodness, the amazing fact of some unfathomable mystery behind everything that is, that called it into being and has sustained it and called us as human beings to be part of it. We have been made, we human beings, by love, for love. But here's the problem. It doesn't take much looking around to see that our world is anything but some beautiful expression of harmony. For all the goodness in our world, our little planet is weighted with pain and sorrow, with conflicts and terrorists, with immense gaps between rich and poor, with hunger and poverty affecting billions, with widespread devastation of our planet's own atmosphere, with violence on the streets taking the lives of young people. This is anything but a place that looks like an original blessing. Why is it that the world that was created in joy and delight has had such a long and sad history of alienation and suffering? Whatever happened to the great vision of the one who made us all? How did things go so disastrously wrong? Well, that's the mystery we're probing this morning as we explore what may be the most profound story ever conceived. The saga of Adam and Eve. It's a myth, and of course, myths are not history. History tells us what happened once. Myth tells us what happens again and again, as they show the deep infrastructures of our human existence. So today I want to explore the mythic drama of just why it is we are where we are. It's a story in 4 acts, and its title is What Went Wrong? Our story opens in a world of utter delight. Act 1, paradise. The Garden of Eden, they call this place. It's a rich, lush land overflowing with trees, plants, abundant fruits, peaceful animals. God has formed Adam, which means man, and Eve, which means woman, as the first 2 humans, and placed them in this haven of abundance and harmony. Yes, they have their work to do, tilling the earth, tending the crops. This generous giver has given them complete freedom to till the soil, live their lives, and abide by just one constraint: that they must not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for if they do, God says, they will die. Our story begins with this image of a harmony, a paradise, a way we imagine the world should be, a way that the world could be. And all that is required is that those who live in that world live by a way of grateful obedience and responsiveness to the giver who has given them everything. A paradise to live in, but a rule to be obeyed. The tension is set. Act 2. Temptation. All of a sudden, we see a serpent. We think maybe of a large, friendly-looking boa constrictor coming your way. But actually, this is probably more petite than this. This is no ordinary reptile, but a brilliant, oily, seductive operator who's out to undermine our hero and heroine, and he doesn't waste any time. Did God say, "You shall not eat from any tree in the garden"? He asks Eve. You can hear the sly, bemused question hinting at some knowledge that she doesn't have and he does. I think of Shakespeare's Iago planting the seed of suspicion in Othello's mind and just watching it slowly grow. Eve earnestly repeats the rule, and it seems that for the first time the thought starts to occur to her that God's command somehow isn't trustworthy or reasonable. Maybe God has a hidden agenda. Eve had repeated to the servant God's warning that if they ate or touched the fruit, they would die. And now the serpent decides, okay, it's time to make my move. You will not die, the serpent says, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Go ahead, he's saying. See for yourself. It can't hurt. Don't be timid. God's holding out on something. It's your right to see what it is. And then it happens. So as the story says, when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. Notice, Eve is the aggressive one, the power player in this couple. Her passive husband over on the side just goes along. She gave some of it to her husband, it says, and he ate. And then they look at each other, confused, beginning to be frightened, then probably terrified. The eyes of both were opened, and they knew they were naked. What have they done? Adam and Eve then become overcome with shame and fear. All of a sudden, self-consciousness has arrived in their lives, a self-awareness. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I pleasing? Am I not? Am I in trouble? Am I not? All of a sudden, they begin to find anxiety and fear working their way in. They become aware of their own nakedness. They begin thinking, what is she thinking? What am I thinking? Who's deceiving who about what? And a world of trust collapses. They had been given lives of joy and harmony built on trusting obedience, a willingness to accept the terms of life in that paradise, trusting this God who has given you everything, and they would flourish. Turn away. Take the power into yourself. Make your life your own, and you'll never see the bottom of the worry and anxiety and feeling of lostness. Preacher Fleming Rutledge once described what's happening here as something like a grandmother who so delights in her grandchild that she gives the grandchild a vast yard to play in for an afternoon, containing lots of beautiful sandboxes and a magnificent swing set. There's just one constraint, the grandmother says. You must never cross that busy street. Don't ever cross it, and you can do whatever you want. And of course, you and I would recognize that this rule is for her own good, but that young girl just doesn't understand it. Now, maybe the child will be so good that she never even considers disobeying her grandmother. But maybe later on in the afternoon, she starts getting bored and looks eagerly to the other side of the street and wonders what's going on over there, having no notion it could be dangerous. And now imagine a friend of hers walks up and yells, "Come on over, there's a lot to see over here." And who knows where it goes from there. This God we are hearing about actually gave rules in this garden for the sake of those who were living inside it. This God will, in the course of the journey that we're getting ready to go on, will give other rules as well, rules like the 10 Commandments. These 10 signposts that were called gifts, not rules at first. They were ways that God gave people to live their lives so that they wouldn't get lost, so that they could trust each other, so they could have the life and wholeness together they were meant to have. Rules like, you shall have no other gods but me. Keep holy the Sabbath. Honor your father and your mother. Do not covet. Do not steal. They were God's gift to the Hebrews and to us. But the seductive voices come, soft, inviting whispers in our ears, or blaring ads on the television, or flattering suggestions that you can be more than you are and have more than you have. And the life of balance and faithfulness and centeredness and compassion slips away. It's so tempting to go our own way. Why was Eve so vulnerable to temptation? Why are we? What makes us so open to being turned away from the lives we were meant for? It's one of the great human mysteries that we who long for a life of peace and contentment are seduced away so easily, so consistently, so regularly. The tempter has seduced his prey. Things will never be the same. Act 3. Where are you? Adam and Eve hear God walking in the garden and throw themselves into the bushes to hide. The story turns an anthropomorphic, showing a picture of God in front of us in the form of this human seeking out this wayward couple. Their relationship with God has been ruptured. And now the two of them, Adam and Eve, seem ludicrous. They've got their fig leaves on. They're hiding in the bushes. They're looking out when they begin to hear this voice calling, "Where are you? Where are you?" It brings up images of comedy, as we've seen, with a child or an adult caught misbehaving, doing something they shouldn't do, and they're scrambling into the closet or under the bed to get out from anybody's sight. "Where are you?" God calls out to Adam. And he emerges explaining that he was afraid and embarrassed to come forward. Have you ever felt ashamed? So ashamed or despondent or humiliated that you couldn't bear to face someone? Have you ever been ashamed of facing God? Have you known times when the last thing you wanted was to be accountable? Have you known a time when you knew you could turn away from your friend or colleague or spouse, but you couldn't turn away from God, who knows everything? And when Adam has to admit his failure, what does he do? Of course, he blames it all on Eve and on God. Listen to this. "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit from the tree, and I ate." Careful with those women, it seems, in this story. Then Eve does her own dodging the blame. And the story closes with God punishing all the players and then driving Adam and Eve away from the harmonious garden forever. Original blessing has given way to what came to be called original sin, something broken at the foundation of the whole human journey. Adam and Eve's sin has been characterized lots of ways as an act of rebellion, as an act of pride, assertion, taking a hold of their lives, as an act of simply claiming that they will be in charge of their lives and no one else. They will decide what their relationship with God and each other will be. And so the creation begins to unravel. As a result of introducing human willfulness and rebellion into the world, the unraveling of creation has begun everywhere. Within a single chapter after the story of Adam and Eve, their son Cain kills their son Abel. Murder has already begun, and a whole array of corruptions and acts of greed and arrogance and destruction unfold in the next 8 chapters. Once humans take it over for themselves and make it all about them and their will, then everything begins to come undone. Until finally, late in those early chapters, God decides to send a flood to wash it all away and start over, see if it can go better one more time. And in the coming centuries, the creation will continually be undone by our selfishness and our arrogance and our taking control, and God will grieve and rage and send prophets to call the Hebrew people and to call us back to the lives of harmony with the one who made us and lives of costly harmony with each other. Act 4. East of Eden. Adam and Eve make their way out of paradise to start their new lives in the fallen world. Now life's going to be harder for them. The pangs of childbirth will be worse. The ground will be cursed. Work will be harsh. Eve will be subjugated to Adam for the first time she was not subjugated in the first creation. They and all who follow will eventually return to the dust. Everyone will die, which was not the story when they were in paradise. But there are two grace notes at the end of this tragedy. One is that God didn't destroy the couple, Adam and Eve, or even reject them. In fact, the second God realizes what Eve and Adam have done, God leaps to his feet and heads out into paradise to look for them, to find them, to see what's gone on, and to hope to bring them back. The Bible is not the story of our human search for God, but of the Holy One's endless search for us, first calling our world into being and us, and when we fail so disastrously, to set out to find us and to bring us back no matter what. Adam, where are you? God cries. Adam, where are you? Or we could say, John or Mary or Jennifer or Bill, where are you? A God who will never stop seeking us, even when we do the worst and make the most disastrous of mistakes. And then in a moment, just as moving, God actually makes the garments that Adam and Eve will wear in this new harsh land. It's to me the sweetest thing you can imagine. This great God brought them into being. They've made a mess. He's got to cast them out. But what does he do? He worries so much about them that he makes the garments they'll wear when they go into this new land. Do you see the beauty of it all, too? That this Creator God won't give up in spite of our rebellion, in spite of the messes we humans make. God will keep seeking them out wherever they hide themselves, and will keep reaching into their lives to be their companions and helpmates as they make their way. And in one time and place, God will actually come and be with them, coming in the presence of his Son to love us and call us and lead us home. So now Adam and Eve now make their ways outside the Garden of Eden. They'll miss their home in paradise, just as my guess is we'll all long for some Eden of peace and delight for ourselves. But the story concludes with this affirmation that none of us travels alone. The one who made us is faithful, unstoppable, and no matter what messes we make, God will not give up on you and me and this fallen race ever.